We're back, and we are dealing with some weird, psychic, large dog-like creatures. Titus,
Yes.
um, as these creatures are circling you, you are remembering that you've seen creatures like this before. That we can go back to a time that you spent time with one of your contacts, Noralam.
Mm,
Noralam is a godlike being out in the Umbra. In some ways, sort of comparable to you because, gods are kind of immortal, you are kind of immortal, maybe there's some connection there.
A spark,
But
if you will.
Titus would never lower himself to being called a god.
you're far more than that.
No.
Uh, but you've selected Noralam as your NPC rival, so you and Noralam don't get along.
No.
What would you say is the inciting event that made you and Orlan unfriendly toward each other?
I think early on in Titus, like shortly after Titus left the monastery, he stumbled upon one of the worlds that Norlem was a god of, and he decided he didn't like people being subjugated to gods, and so he led a rebellion against the gods.
Okay.
Um,
Nice.
how well that turned out and all that, maybe we can define later, but that was kind of the inciting incident, and yeah, Titus does not like gods, and he does not like Norlem in particular.
Okay. All right. Well, you remember that Norlam has many servants and ruled an empire of many worlds. But one of the kinds of creatures that Norlam kept close and used extremely viciously were these large dog-like creatures called gaze hounds.
A's hounds.
Gaze hounds,
All right,
and they
just to
have
clarify, Gaze, not
yes,
Gays. Okay,
Gaze.
just because my brain went to a funny place there. Sorry.
Yeah,
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 A's
no,
hounds.
not happy, or
It is Pride Month, so it's
Not
yeah,
yeah, Pride Month hounds. That's
not
it.
yeah. Um, anyway,
sorry. Brain went to a weird place.
I love how you derailed everything with just one
and
comment. That was
you have
perfect.
seen these creatures just rip people's minds completely apart
Ooh. Okay.
and turn them into gibbering husks of nobody there anymore.
Good to know. Man, it'd be really great if we had a way to tell each other about this, huh?
If you say something out loud, I'll
Flashback
hear you.
time.
Actually, yeah.
Flashback time.
I think we can save because I'm going to use a flashback later, but yeah, I think Titus, before kind of exploding into action, will basically say something aloud to that effect of kill them quickly, they can tear your mind apart. Um, hoping that Hawthorne can kind of relay or hear that because Hawthorne is the sound person.
So you're just
The
yelling this
sound
out
tech.
in the direction.
Yeah.
In the
Hawthorne, the
direction
sound
of
Hawthorne,
engineer.
pass this somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, and we can say I'm not going to make a roll for that. We can say that Hawthorne hears that.
With that in mind, I think so. Up until this point, I think Titus has been moving very methodically and kind of like relatively kind of not slowly, but just not like at a hurried pace. As kind of the battle's been kind of setting up, and I think this is the first time we've seen Titus now explode into movement.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna flashback to way back when we first were having dinner on the
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
train, and uh, Titus looked at the silverware with kind of intent of, huh, if this went into a fight, this would be an interesting thing to use. and then flash forward a little bit to him burying it somewhere nearby the camp, um, basically right underneath where one of the gaze hounds is kind of circling around, and he's going
Uh-huh.
to explode forward and reach for that knife and basically try and slice open the belly of one of these as he
Okay.
kind of baseball slides underneath to grab and slash.
Okay. All right. Cool. Um, in this game, you can declare a flashback anytime you want to, which is just to establish preparation or something cool that happened in the past that informs how you've prepared for what's happening now. Um, the GM can impose a stress cost on a flashback based on how unlikely it is that you would have prepared for this very specific situation. Um, in this case, I'm going to call this kind of a cool special effect that isn't going to cost you any stress because you could have just said, I have a knife,
Yeah.
and you would have had a knife, right? Because in this game, we're not too worried about equipment. Um, so this is just a cool way that you have a knife rather than something that requires, complex planning and stuff like that. So you dive under one of the creatures, pull a knife from under a rock where you had it buried. You are an experienced warrior. You get a perfect grip on its hilt, and you are attempting to stab upward into this creature, surprising it. I'm going to call this a risky standard roll. Standard means that you managed to cut this thing pretty bad. Um, I think that it's pretty clear that there are risks involved here.
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
that's very fair.
uh, and there are various actions that you could use. This, that could apply here because you're charging forward. This could be a traverse roll. If you were trying to wrestle with the creature, it could be more of an overpower roll. Um, I'm guessing that because you have 3 dots in engage, you're thinking in terms of using the ability that you have the most dots in and are most likely to be successful with. But tell me.
I would say yes. I would prefer this to be an engage. This feels
Okay.
engagey.
Yep. And technically, I should have waited until you decided on the actual action you were using before I told you what the stakes were. If you had said you were going to do this using study, that would have been maybe a little different. But we'll call this a risky standard roll. You have 3 dice to start with. Are you trying to manipulate those, the dice or the
Always,
stakes at all?
always. You never
Okay.
take the base space
Uh-huh.
offered. What would so? I'm out of curiosity. What would greater effect look like?
You will just kill this thing and be positioned to just be right there attacking the next one.
So then I wouldn't mind trading position for effect if that makes sense in this situation.
Sure.
So basically, desperate greater, best place to be at.
You're not doing anything to be careful. You are just putting yourself fully at risk in order to get the most out of this situation.
And just because I always have to ask, do I make rolls without devil's bargains? I think I've done it before, but I can't.
I mean, you
think
do have 3 dice, so you don't really. You could decide you don't need a double one.
Yeah, but it's like a drug. Like, okay, but what's that devil's bargain? If there's a easy devil's bargain off the top of your mind, otherwise I'll probably just go with the base roll.
And we can say you take level 1 harm. In this game,
He'd
there are
enjoy that.
I'm sorry. In this game, there are 3
I
levels.
said he'd enjoy that. Yeah.
The first level by default just means that you're hurt but not mechanically affected by it. If you start filling up those boxes, it starts to have more effect. But just 1 level harm wouldn't affect anyone, and in fact, even level 2 harm doesn't affect you because you've taken a special ability indicating that you're less affected by harm. But we'll say that as a devil's bargain, we'll fill up one of your 2 level 1 harm boxes.
Sounds good. Anything kind of maybe like he for sure gets bitten on the forearm or something, kind of fending off. Or...
It's bitten on forearm, something like that.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Alrighty.
4 dice. Making it even more embarrassing if you roll a fail.
I'll say, man, don't say that. It's very possible with my luck. Let's see. Anything else I want to throw in? But I think that's it.
Okay. I think you've done the things.
I think yeah, I won't push or anything. Let's see how it goes.
I mean, you could push for extreme effect, but no.
It's
Okay,
true.
so you made the roll. And you get a 5 as
That's
a partial
that's five.
success.
Fair enough.
All right, so you do kill this thing. So you dive under it, uh, pull up the knife by surprise, just rip a long line in its underbelly. It's got very tough skin in other places with spines coming out of it, but its underbelly is weak, which is something you're aware of from previous experience with gaze hounds. Um, and it just you're covered in gore. We could get more more descriptive here, but we'll let you imagine what's happening there. It's messy, and you meet as the thing howls and kicks over and starts to die. The other creatures are howling. They seem to be horrified by this themselves, and you are diving forward toward another creature. And this was a mixed success at desperate position.
Yep.
So I'm going to call um, that as you do this, the other two creatures stare right into your eyes, that you are suddenly caught and you are right ready to attack this next creature, and suddenly you are frozen in place. They are holding you in place. Now, you can, of course, resist that. Um, that would reduce the consequence, it wouldn't eliminate it.
I think I'll resist that then.
Okay. So that would bring it down to just disoriented but not frozen.
That's fair.
Um,
That would be, I guess, resolve or
yeah, I
pro.
think it would also be a resolve resist. So you've got 2 dice to roll to see how much stress that costs you.
I was going to ask as a narrative question. The beasts you said are howling. Is it vocal? Are they howling like wolves or dogs, or is this like a mental thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Your immediate experience of that is it sounds, you experience it as they're howling vocally, but then you realize that you're not actually hearing this with your ears.
Ooh. All right, and that's a 6.
Okay, so that doesn't cost you any more stress, which is nice because you only have 4 left. So that's going to drop to disoriented as a condition.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Mika. You have this creature. It is staring you down. You are staring it down. It is not submitting to you, although you've tried to get it to submit to you. You have not submitted to it, although it has tried to get you to submit to it. You're sort of on even terms with it.
That's what you love hearing about a PC.
All right.
You're about as good as a dog.
Oh, this is not a great dog.
As a killer psychic dog, I'm okay.
These are, the
Um,
divine servants of Noralam, a god. They're pretty up there, I think.
All right. So last time I chose to add the power of Smooth Talker. Defense against consequences of escalation.
Oh, okay.
Or taking offense, plus 1d to social interactions involving negotiation with hostiles. This seems like a negotiation with non-hostile.
I would say that if you are socially engaged with this creature, that totally applies. So that would give you an extra die for any of those rolls.
So,
I'm sorry, I can't remember that you had that ability. Please, everybody, remind me when you have an ability that seems to apply.
Yeah, well, it didn't come into effect until now. So,
Yep.
So one of the things about her basically tangential convenience power is that she has she's a tiny little thing. So she has this little leather-y appearing pouch, and she's maintaining eye contact or maintaining eyes contact with the thing, but but she's opening the pouch and pulling things out, and she happens to have treats that are something that are pleasant to this particular type of creature.
The best kinds of treats.
The best kind of treats. This
Little
is like
brains
a
in
dried
jars.
salmon.
That's what I was like.
Yeah.
Are these like little brains?
Little brains in jars, little dried
Little brains in jars, yeah.
you know.
Fried brains. Okay.
So I've got some brain jerky. That's what it is. Yeah. Got
Okay.
some
Still fresh with thoughts.
Is he's like brain jerky. Yeah.
Well, might
No,
be
it's
sweet
awesome.
and fatty, so it probably is actually relatively tasty if you deep fry it.
so,
yeah, I would say
so
that. I
go
would
ahead.
say that in this case, if you didn't have tangential convenience as your special ability, I might charge you stress for that kind of
Yes,
perfect
but-
flashback of preparation. But
it's
in
just
your case, you just lucked out. You happen to like
I
brain
happen
jerky.
to have this.
It's yummy, yeah. And
Well,
you
no,
happen
this
to-
isn't for me. I just
Oh.
found it. Like
Oh, you
I
just
don't
found
eat
it?
this because it's
You found some nice
no.
brain
I have
jerky.
to.
And
I
you
have
thought
to.
it might be
Don't
useful
watch my
later.
weight. You know,
Okay.
I'm small.
Well, it's keto.
It is very keto.
She's not a keto person. She's not. She really likes her pasta.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So she's just taking little crumbles and tossing them.
All right.
Forward.
So what are you trying to achieve here?
So what I'm trying to do is reach a détente, which is I want to see if I can communicate with this creature in a neutral state. Like, all right, what is it that you're doing? What is it that I'm doing? Essentially, parlay.
Okay.
That's what I'm going for.
So you want to communicate psychically with this creature,
I love the
Psychically
different
or verbally.
approaches.
or verbally.
You
Okay.
know, could
Well,
be.
it seems to be pretty
Um,
psychic in nature.
Yeah, that's fine. But I'm just, throwing some stuff
Okay.
and just giving it a chance if it wants. Apparently
Right.
this is very popular.
And so,
Um,
you're trying to achieve communication and sort of
understanding.
go from hostile to neutral, basically.
Hostile to neutral, and to be honest, if these are creatures that enjoy violence, I think being part of our party would give them much better opportunity to have that kind of joy, especially with Titus in our group. I mean,
There is that. Yes.
so I every being needs an opportunity. So I'm just opening channels.
Could I just point out the crazy difference between what's going on? Titus started a fire around like a death match and all that. Meanwhile, Mika's like, okay, let's negotiate.
I
So,
just ripped
what
the
is it
guts out of one of them.
Yeah, brain jerky. Here we go. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're completely like, Well, the thing is that what Titus and Hawthorne have seen in the past is Mika's deeply amoral in that she has very clear views about how things should go, but she has gone in the past from, offering pets to stabbing something in the throat within seconds because things shifted and it was like, oh, you don't want to play, fine,
Oh, for sure. I just thought it was the difference between the scenes is just funny to me.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
So she she appears to be somebody who would be consistent, but she's not. She goes with whatever seems like the right move at the moment. So this is the move she's making.
All right. So she's going for nice for now.
Yeah. I mean, you always want to start with nice for now until it's time to not be nice. Swayze always gets a pass.
Not quite time to not be nice yet. All right. So, so you said you were trying to persuade this creature to become at least neutral toward you. I'm going to call that. We'll call that risky standard for now. Standard effect. Obviously you're taking some significant risks. Standard effect means that you will at least achieve a position of neutral communication.
Okay. So I have a +1 die on
Yep.
this.
So you have 1 dot in persuade,
Um,
an automatic plus
yep.
1 die. So that's
Yeah.
two dice at this point.
Easy.
You could decide to push yourself or accept the devil's bargain for an extra die. You could trade position for more effect.
I'm gonna push for a 3rd die.
Okay, that'll cost you 2 dice.
2 stress.
Or 2 stress,
stress.
right. Doesn't cost you
You
any
spend
dice
2
at all.
dice to get 1 die.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would
cost
be
me
a
2 dice
bad
to
deal.
die. Yeah. All right. So
Cost you 2 stress, and you are now to 3 dice.
all right. So I'm just gonna go with that.
Yep, sure.
And okay, here we go.
And you roll a 4.
Oh,
That's a success.
all right.
Yeah, mixed success.
It's a success, but
That was an 82%
so
chance you
do
got this.
achieve neutrality with this creature. And what I'm going to say is we have a clock that is halfway filled of more are coming. With a risky position, that means if you're filling a clock, that means 2 segments get filled. So the consequence is that clock fills with the 2 remaining segments get marked off. You can resist that consequence if you wish.
yeah, actually, I think I am gonna because we need the time.
Okay, all right. So
We need the time.
that is totally fine. Let's see. So let's make a resist roll. I'll call it an insight roll.
You want me to do
if that makes
fortune?
sense to people. I'm
So
sorry?
fortune roll.
No, it's not a fortune roll. It has to be insight prowess to resolve, because it's a resist roll.
Mechanically on Discord, yes.
Yep. So I'll call that insight. For you, that just means you're, actually, for you it doesn't matter because all of your attributes are 2 die resist rolls. So all of your resist rolls are going to be 2 dice no matter what, the way you've set up your character.
Okay.
So it's a make a roll, 2 dice.
Okay, but
See how many
but
stress-
on Discord, am I using the mechanics of fortune or the mechanics
Yeah,
of action?
because the dice bot we're using is not built around the kind of resistance we're
That's
doing.
what I was asking.
Make a fortune roll with
Okay.
2 dice. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So
Slightly clutchy.
oops,
roll a
I
3?
accidentally rolled a 3.
Oh, but you made a roll with only. Yeah, no, okay.
I
so
made
you
a roll. Yeah, that's my goof. So let me do that
rolled-
over because that
no,
was
you made
not
a
what I
fortune roll with
intended.
2 dice, and you rolled a 3, so that's the result.
Oh, I did. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought I accidentally
Good,
typed in the wrong amount.
But that's a
Okay.
poor result. That costs you 4 stress.
Ooh.
Alrighty.
So it doesn't run you out of
Okay.
stress, but you have only 1 stress left.
This
Yeah,
is exactly
this
where we want to
is-
be, guys.
The way things work in this game, if you run out of stress, so if you have 1 stress, you can always make a resistance roll. If you go to 0 stress, you can't go below 0. If you're at 0 stress, you are exhausted. That just means that you can't do anything that costs stress, which is a significant disability in the way this game works. So you've lost that.
Actually, the way we play it.
Yeah, well, kind of play your character like you stole it, right? So you have 1 stress left, which means that you can still make 1 resistance roll if you need to in the future. But that clock is not filled. The way you look at resistance rolls, often it's the character doing a thing to avoid a consequence. Sometimes it makes more sense to think of it as the player is just kind of exerting a veto over the fiction. That kind of makes more sense in the case of like this, where it's bad guys coming, that kind of thing, lucky kinds of things like that. So anyway, you have resisted that effectively. The creature is standing there. It has succeeded. It has eaten some of your brain jerky bits. So it likes treats, and those appear to be its favorite treat in the whole multiverse. Um, you can see it's distracted by what's happening over with its fellows, but it seems to find you interested. It's staring at you, and you can see it sniffing at you as well and moving closer.
I offer my knuckles.
Okay. It gives you a little lick.
Okay.
Its tongue
I
is raspy, so it doesn't have like a dog tongue. It has more like a cat raspy tongue.
fair. All right. I give it a little scritch behind the ear mount.
Are you trying to communicate it with it? Because you have a psychic connection now to this creature. So you're
Hmm.
not going to have a chat
Yeah.
with it vocally, but you
No, I'm
have a
just trying to
psychic
send it
connection,
messages of
and
I'm
you can feel its you know it can feel you can feel that it can feel the death of its pack companion,
mm,
and you can feel that pain through this creature, and it's kind of shaking with that.
and so I send it sadness, sympathy,
Mm-hmm.
understanding, sense of healing. Like we have one who dies. We know the pain. It's not exactly the same. Ours comes back to life. Yeah,
Okay, so you've
but
got this thing neutralized for now. Hawthorne, what are you doing? You know that there are a couple of creatures out there circling. You see Titus in a battle with some creatures. You see that it has killed one of them. Titus has yelled out, and you can easily hear. Uh, what exactly did Titus say? I'm sorry, I'm
I
forgetting.
think warning
Kill
them
them
that these
quick.
things can tear apart your brain. Like
Okay,
essentially kill them quickly or just shield because they can
killed your mind.
yeah.
Okay.
Tinfoil hats, everybody. Um, yeah, no. I was going to ask if, because it seems like Titus potentially knows about these things. Um, I was going to try to traverse or possibly warp. Um, I was going to try to world walk,
Hmm.
with the interest of finding out if these creatures can world walk as well. I want to know if they can follow me. Um,
Are you going to draw them off?
right. Um, but I was just going to ask briefly before I did that, is that something that would be common enough knowledge with Titus having known of these things? Like, would we already know that? Because that was a kind of like an exploration of
Mhm.
the narrative for me as a
Mhm.
player. I wanted to see if they could do that. But if
Mhm.
that's something we know already, I don't necessarily have to take that action.
I don't think you know that. And it wouldn't be ridiculous tactically to try to draw some of them away if you decided to do that.
Right. The bigger concern, I think, if I do or do not know, I wouldn't try it if I know they can't, because
Mm-hmm.
then I wouldn't be helping my friends at all. Then I'd just be
Right.
running away.
Well, they clearly are able to manipulate power,
Yeah.
right? That the psych, you're a little disoriented. The psychic uh, connection you felt them impose on you,
Hmm.
uh, definitely feels like the power. So your best guess is that they have at least some ability to. Maybe they can't make their way through the Umbra the way you can, but generally, in your experience, creatures of this level of power can at least follow someone through the Umbra.
Sure.
And if
Slipstream.
you wanted to, if you were to shift through the Umbra, you could do that in a way intended to make it as easy as possible to be followed.
Sure. Um, yeah. I mean, I want to push the boundary where, like, a normal Umbra denizen wouldn't be able to, so I can find out if they can. But the other thing about that, or my plan, just so you know what I'm doing, I was planning on making potentially a setup action. I don't know which one out of these two I would do, but I was going to traverse. Hawthorne was going to like try to rush away from this area, try to draw them out, and to a location where I will have had a trap ready, like something I could retreat to that they would like
Nice.
fall into a pit trap or something. I don't know which one I would want to roll first though. Like roll a setup for having the trap, or roll traverse to get there, and then roll a flashback trap for how effective it is. So
Yep. So my preference would be to not make a whole series of die rolls for this.
sure.
So what I would tend to do is just I would charge you 1 stress for that flashback, and we can just
Okay.
flash back to your having created a trap. And then I would tend to, you've got this plan, and we can make a die roll to see how well it works, at least initially.
Sure. Okay. So I won't be because there's different skills involved in that, like traverse or
you can
warp.
decide which is the main way that you're describing what you're doing in the fiction, and then you decide which action rating best kind of applies to that.
Sure.
And that's completely fine and reasonable to, for you to choose which one you want to roll with, and that would have potentially affect the stakes of that roll.
Right. So you said 1 stress for the flashback.
Yeah.
And then I will, I'm gonna pick craft, which is like having made the trap itself or come up with something functional. And I actually have a action point dot from character creation I did not spend. So I'm going to put it into craft right now. Which puts me at 2 dots.
That is completely reasonable to do. All right, so you're doing this with craft. I will call this. And what exactly are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to hurt them? Are you trying to trap them? Are you trying to keep moving?
Yeah, disable them.
Keep them from coming back. What would success look like for you as far as what you're trying to get?
I was imagining some sort of like pit trap where they would fall in and have like no space just to pace around and hopefully not be able to like claw their way out. But yeah, so basically like trap them or like get them stuck somewhere. I'm not necessarily going to be eliminating these if they are relatively powerful creatures.
All right. So let's say that standard effect will trap one of them. If you were get to move it up in effect, you could trap 2 of them. So there are different levels of effect. Default is standard. 1 level up is great, 2 levels up is extreme. There are lower levels of effect. Let's say by default you'll get standard effect, which is to trap 1 creature if you're successful. But if you want to change the stakes, you can do that.
Yes, and we were starting at risky, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then follow up. Technically, I haven't been told that the condition has been dropped. Is disorienting?
Yeah, no, I'm. That's considering that you're feeling a bit disoriented.
Okay, that's already accounted for.
Yeah.
So I will push for 2 stress to increase the effect.
Sure.
And then I've got
both of the creatures.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so it'll trap both.
Yep.
And I've got 2 dice, and I'm not going to manipulate the dice. I don't.
Okay. You can
have a thing
for effect and for dice at the same time if you wish. That's just it's expensive, but it's allowed.
Sure. No, I'm not worried about it. 2 dice is easy success.
Yeah. Right. What could go wrong?
You got that, Jared?
Jared,
yes.
could you make a roll for Travis? Travis is acting as our producer, and therefore he can't play around with the dice bot without messing up the visuals.
2 dice. Easy peasy. Nothing bad happens with 2 dice. Exactly.
Yeah, and he rolls a full success. You get a 6. So in this case, nothing bad does happen with 2 dice. So describe for us what this looks like. You kind of pull them toward you, shift worlds. Maybe they don't even notice the shift in worlds.
Yeah, it's
What does this
probably
look like?
pretty similar, I imagine. Like we take a few steps or start rushing through some brush in this area. And there's that fire that already got started by Titus in the world we're in, and maybe we walk into a different world and there's like more of a fire, or like something's already been spread further. And it's like if it was like a show, the audience even might not notice that the world is changing as much as like they might see the fire as like being spread where we're at. And there might be like a sudden snap back for the camera to Titus and the fire's more calm, which would be like the indicator that worlds had been traversed.
Mhm.
And yeah, I rushed through like the briars of the fields a bit, and then kind of like take a pause against something that looks like I can't get out, or like I'm in an inescapable position. And when the two hounds go to like corner me, they start to like circle and fall into this pit that they didn't see.
Okay. And that is fully successful. You've gotten them in there. I
Yay!
can imagine very exciting music happening while we're showing this whole thing, and you look like you're about to die, and then suddenly, boom, they're trapped successfully in a nearby world in the Umbra. So you've now shifted into a different existence. The way the Umbra works is that worlds, you're in a particular dimension. Nearby dimensions are very, very similar to the one you're in, just tiny little differences. The further you go, as you travel, you can make more and more changes in the world around you. So you wouldn't have been able to shift into, I don't know, the
A
Death Star
volcano.
or a volcano in one shift, but you could shift into a world that's just a little bit different, which is what you did. All right, let's go to Titus. Titus, you are in an exciting situation.
Yes.
There's music playing in the
You
background with
feel
a
all
theremin
of these
underneath it.
other creatures in your mind. They have they almost just stopped you in your tracks with their gaze, but you managed to push yourself through that. You're a little bit disoriented. You've killed one of them. Its death twitches are happening right next to you. What are you doing next?
Um,
You had set
yeah.
yourself up for an attack on the next creature.
I think this is going to be relatively simple. Yeah, Titus is going to remove the tableware knife with a squelch of sorts, and basically climb over, leaping off the body of the fallen gaze hound and onto the next one. Um, Maybe even shouting out, something along the Norlam, show yourself, you coward, as he attacks the next gaze hound.
Okay.
Because he's assuming this is an attack directly from Norlam, not just a wandering pack. Which both is possible, I'm sure. But.
Both is possible, but you're assuming that this isn't something from some wandering encounter table. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And
that would be a great name for a monster, the Wandering Encounter Table Monster. I like it.
All right. So let's zoom out a little bit to kind of resolve, see if we can resolve this fairly quickly and see how things go. We've been playing this out for a good while. Be good to move on in the fiction. In these actions, we can decide that any given action resolves any amount of the fiction, from one blow at a time to a whole battle, right? So you're trying to take these creatures out. Let's see how well you do with that. Might not work, but it sounds like another engage roll.
This is, yes, I would like to use engage. I would also like to push, and because I'm pushing myself in melee, I'm getting the mighty additional effect.
Right.
Special abilities, which means he can engage up to scope 1 on even terms. So even though he's outmatched, he can just
Yeah, even though there are two powerful creatures you're dealing with, you are fighting one. You're able to deal with them on even terms. That also gives a extra reason why you are just kind of resolving.
Mhm.
We are potentially resolving this in one roll. Um, I'm going to say because of your disorientation, however, this is starting at a desperate roll. Because you're on even terms, standard will take them both out.
Okay, I'll take that. So then, desperate standard. I don't think even greater is even necessary in this
Yeah,
case.
we said it would standard would take them both out.
Oh,
So I mean, if you wanted to push for effect, we could give you some super awesome, control over the narrative for a while. But if you just stick with standard, we'll resolve this part of the fight.
I mean, I have an idea for a greater effect, but greater effect is essentially the other ones show up and he kills them too, or something, finishing up the clock.
Uh-huh. If you wanted, we could resolve it that way if you want, right?
um, no. Let's just go with an extra die from that one then. Yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
I'll put for the extra die, plus
Okay.
the mighty,
So that's 4 dice.
and then I think that should be it. Yeah,
Okay. All right. Let's see how that goes.
4 dice, triple fives.
Okay.
Oh,
So
success.
you get a mixed success at desperate position. So
Mhm.
you do kill these two other creatures. You can decide exactly how that plays out, um, but you get wounded in the process. I'm going to say that a um, you take level 3 harm, and it's not a physical wound.
Oh,
Uh, that the death scream of these creatures is going to burn your mind, and that's
Hmm.
going to create level 3 harm. You
as
can resist that, of course.
yeah, as interesting as it is, I will resist that.
Okay.
Hmm.
You
Take
have two
it.
stress
Take the
left.
damage.
I sometimes like taking damage, but
Right.
I think he is going to resist the death scream.
All right. That will
Things this
reduce.
game makes me say.
That will reduce it to level 1 harm, but not eliminate it.
Ah, perfect. So I still get to take some harm. That's exciting.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And let's call that a resolve resist. So that's 2 dice for you.
Yep. Uh, almost used the wrong function of the dice roller. Here we go. So that's 2 dice, easy peasy, and that's a okay. So my resistances are going really well today. That's a
Okay.
6 on resistance.
Right.
So
So no cost. So you still have 2 stress left. What does it look like as you kill these two creatures?
I think there's that kind of yeah, he leaps over the body, and the first one kind of you know lunges from as well, and it goes the knife gets left in one of its eyes, and he kind of pushes it with the palm fully in to kind of send it down. The other one tackles him to the ground. He grabs its jaws as they're inches away from his face, and you see the muscles tense as he opens wider and wider and wider, and then there's that sickening snap as something breaks and it collapses, and he tosses it to the side.
Mm-hmm. Does he do any
That's
when he defeats these creatures in the light from the fire that he set? Does he do anything? It stands up. Do you howl? Do you
Does
scream
he
to
have does he
Noramon?
have a quote?
Do you just
I think, yeah, when
triple your pectorals? What do you? Is there any kind of
I think
Flexes.
I think he does stand. I think because he's not smiling anymore. Like at first, this fight was fun until he realized what these creatures were potentially from, and he does not like Norlum. This is one of the things that'll get under his skin. And yeah, I
Okay.
think he's basically screaming up at the heavens right now for Norlum to show himself.
Okay.
I
He's doing the
whether
con scream.
that yes, exactly.
All right.
Con.
All right. How about you mark level 1 harm, mind burn? Again, that won't have any mechanical effect, but if you That means both of your level 1 harm boxes are filled, so if you took level 1 harm, it would bump up to level 2.
Just a note, I don't know, was it explained very well that the 3 was bumped down to a 1?
Yes, so I could have explained more clearly. So when you resist, it is up to the GM how much it changes things. It always reduces the consequence, so you don't take the full impact. By default in this game, it reduces it by 2 levels. So a desperate consequence would go down to a controlled consequence. But if it makes sense in the fiction, the GM could decide that it reduces only by 1, or that it just gets completely eliminated. That's just the default, but the fiction could push that in other directions. So in this case, it reduced a level. The resistance reduced a level, what would have been a level 3 harm, to a level